A man, a den, and a circle of lions. You know, some moments are just so charged with tension, they seem to stop time itself. And some paintings, well, they manage to capture that very feeling on canvas, holding it for all of us to see centuries later. And this is one of them, Daniel in the Lion's Den, painted by the Flemish master Peter Paul Rubens around 1615. Just take a second and look closely. Right there, at the center of the swirling chaos of animal power, is Daniel. He isn't cowering, not at all. He's calm, and his gaze is turned upward in prayer. And all around him, these magnificent, life-sized lions. You can almost feel the tension in the air, right? That quiet before a storm that somehow never breaks.
First, you're hit with this sense of raw, untamed power. Rubens made a point to paint these lions life-size, and it was to heighten their immediate menace. You'll notice a few of them are staring right out of the canvas, at us, making us feel like we're intruding, like we're standing right there in the den with them.
But then you see another kind of power, the power of prayer. Daniel's posture, his upturned face, his clasped hands, they create this calm center in the middle of all that danger. This isn't a scene about despair, it's about unwavering faith. And finally, there's the overwhelming peril, the darkness of the den, the bones you can see scattered on the floor. The danger is very, very real. It's that stark contrast between the peril and Daniel's serenity that gives this painting its incredible emotional punch. So who was this man? And how in the world did he end up here? To really get the painting, you have to understand the prophet's ordeal. This is Daniel. The story goes that he was a young nobleman from Jerusalem, captured and exiled to Babylon. But even in this foreign court, his wisdom and integrity were so impressive that he rose to a high position, all while staying completely devoted to his God. So the path to the den, it was really paved with jealousy and political games. After Daniel became a top official under King Darius, some other advisors got envious. They actually tricked the king into signing an unbreakable law. For 30 days, nobody could pray to any god or man except the king. And the punishment? You guessed it, being thrown into the lion's den. Daniel, of course, defied the order. He continued to pray openly. And for that act of faith, he had to face his punishment. But overnight, something miraculous happened. He was delivered, surviving completely unharmed. Okay, now let's jump forward a couple thousand years. How did this ancient story become one of the most dynamic paintings of its era? Well, for that, we have to look at the artist's vision. The man with the brush was Peter Paul Rubens. He created this masterpiece right after spending 8 really formative years in Italy. And believe me, that trip changed everything about his style. You can see it all over this canvas. What's so amazing here is how Rubens was basically sculpting with paint. That powerful figure of Daniel wasn't just pulled from his imagination. His expression was influenced by famous classical sculptures, and his seated pose was inspired by Renaissance art. Rubens just had this genius for combining classical drama with intense realism. And that realism is everything. In a letter, Rubens himself actually wrote that the lions were done from life. See, as a court painter in Brussels, he had access to the royal menagerie. He didn't just imagine these huge animals. He studied them, sketching live lions to get every detail of their anatomy and their presence just right. There's this famous story that really shows his dedication. It's said that Rubens once tickled a lion he had in his studio just to get it to open its mouth so he could study its expression. Now, who knows if that's actually true, but it tells you everything you need to know about his obsession with getting the details perfect. But why this particular story? I mean, the tale of Daniel was told and retold for centuries, and that's because it held a much deeper meaning, especially for early Christians. For the first Christians facing persecution, Daniel was the ultimate role model. His story was a symbol of divine protection from earthly dangers, and it represented the final triumph of good over evil. In fact, you often find pictures of him in the lion's den in the ancient catacombs, which tells you it was a powerful symbol of hope for deliverance and even resurrection. And what's really fascinating is how this theme is built right into the book of Daniel itself. Just look at the parallels between the story of the fiery furnace and this one, the lion's den. In both, you've got a royal edict forcing a choice, a punishment for faith that means certain death, a miraculous rescue by an angel, and a foreign king who ends up praising God. This structure, it wasn't an accident. It was designed to hammer home one central message, the power of faith versus the power of kings. And that theme of faith and royal authority made the painting itself a very, very desirable object, something owned by some of the most powerful people in Europe. The painting has had its own incredible journey. First, Rubens traded it to an English diplomat for a bunch of antique statues. Then, that diplomat gave it to King Charles I of England, who put it on display as a symbol of his own royal authority. From there, it passed through the hands of dukes in Scotland for generations, before finally, in 1965, it made its way to the National Gallery of Art. And you have to wonder, how valuable was it by then? Well, get this. In 1963, it was mistakenly sold at an auction for just $1,400. Once it was correctly identified as a lost Rubens, an art dealer sold it just 2 years later for over $400,000. Which, of course, brings us right back to Daniel himself. After that long journey through palaces and auction houses, the painting's focus is still this one quiet moment of human faith. That calm, upward gaze is the anchor for the entire piece. So today, hanging in the National Gallery of Art, Daniel in the Lion's Den is so much more than just a painting. It's a masterclass in drama, a powerful piece of storytelling, and a timeless exploration of faith in the face of truly insurmountable odds.